Hello, Tim here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about all my carving tools. These are full-size wood carving tools that are used mainly with a mallet or with both hands and your workpiece fastened down or fixed so that your hands are free to move about. Maybe you have a question like, why so many tools? And are they really necessary? So I'm going to show you some of my favorites and the reason why I got some of these specialty ones. So I've been collecting tools since high school. So let's start with this one over here. Starting with the big tools, I've showed this before on video of the Sea Captain. And this is a roughing out tool when your timber is in rough form, because this removes a lot of wood quickly. This is a fishtail gouge for obvious reasons. It's a number 6, and each tool's got, or most all tools have a number stamped in the bottom. That refers to the sweep. So the sweep starts at a number 1 is actually a flat, which is a chisel. So a number 1 tool is a chisel, and then they go by width, all the way from 1/8 of an inch over here to 2 inches. I even have a chisel that's about 4.5 inches. It was a slick chisel. I don't use that for carving. So the sweep refers to then a number 2 sweep. Or it's not actually a sweep, but a number 2 is a skew chisel. And then a number 3, this one here. And this is actually one of my first tools I got when I was in high school. And number 3 is just a very shallow sweep. And they graduate from 3, 4, 5, 6. And number 5 is a very useful tool. You can use it for finish. This is a number 5 here. And all the way up to a number 10. So you can see a number 10 is like a complete U shape. Well, that's about 1 inch, number 10. And I have a number 10, actually number 11, which is called a veiner. And it's like a complete U shape. See the difference between 10 and 11. Now the reason I have all these different tool rolls, first off, is that they identify what's inside the roll. So I roll these all up. I used to have them hanging up on my shop wall because I thought they looked kind of cool. But they got kind of in the way, and once in a while when I was moving things around, I'd bump them and cut myself. But when I do a particular carving, I will just choose only the tools that I need for that particular job. And so I don't have all these tools out here because it'd be just a mess. And sometimes when I have a couple tools out that are very similar, but I need them for different purposes, these are very close, I'll color code them with tape. And when I lay out my tools when I'm carving, I always have the edge toward me so I know which shape to grab. Because when they're this way, all the handles look the same or they look very similar. So I have the tool edges pointing toward me, and I'm paying attention to what I need to grab and being careful that I don't poke my hand into it, because that's happened before. I go down to just what's called a firmer gouge. A lot of these tools I've picked up over the years. A lot of them are very old, and I maybe find them in an antique store, or I find them in an estate sale. Buy them new, and you can get them at different sources. And I'll link a couple sources that I still buy from when I need a particular tool. So these are a little bit less than 1 inch, or up to 1 inch. And then the next one over here, this is under 1/2 inch, and then this one over here is under 1/4 inch. So I have them labeled on the outside of the roll, and these are just chisels here. And there's 2 types of chisels I have. This one is a cabinet maker's bench chisel, and they're beveled for cutting dovetails for clearance. This is not beveled. This is called a firmer chisel, steel cap ends, so that you can really pound on them with a mallet. And this is for chopping mortises, and I sometimes use them for wood carving, depending on what I'm trying to do. It's more for joinery. Here's an example of a chisel I got at an estate sale. And I actually found an old chunk of wood that I made a handle, so it looks kind of period. These are just like the chisels, only it's a gouge. And this is a These are some of my early first carving tools. This one I wrecked the original handle. It had this kind of boxwood handle on it, and I ended up destroying it over time. So I made one and put a copper piece on the end so it doesn't split out again. These are, this is a firmer chisel and a firmer gouge. The reason I have tape on this is it's longer than my tool roll, and it sticks out so I don't cut myself. Now these are interesting gouges here. These are pretty much the same tool, but if you notice a difference, one has the bevel to the inside. This is called an in-canal, and this one's the bevel to the outside. And there might be an occasion where I use both of these on a particular job. Now this one I can cut down and pare. It'll cut straight down. So if you're scribing something or you want to have that cut, these come in, I have them in all the way down to 1/4 inch. Now this one here, if you're going to do that same kind of cut, like I'm describing, you want to come straight down. I'd have to tip it like this, and then it's not really the best approach to hit it like that. You want it straight up and down. At another time, I'll talk about how I sharpen these. These are tricky to sharpen. So those are the firmer gouges, in canal and out canal. What can be really confusing is you want to start carving. What do I start with? I have my favorites, and some of these are duplicated in other ones. This set here I've compiled, which are the tools that I use for carving snowflakes. When I'm doing snowflake carvings, I might have maybe 4 or 5 of these out, but it depends on what. If I change my mind, I want to do something a little different. And the only difference between this one and say, I think I got one here that's that's the same tool, different maker, but these are number 3, 1/2 inch number 3 gouges. And the only difference is that I sharpen this with a little bit of a bull nose. And one of these, this is a chisel, this is a number 1, so you see the number 1 there. And that same thing here, I did a little bit of a bull nose on that. And that allows me to get to the bottom of a cut. This one here, I can carve a little divot with a pointed bullnose edge like that. Same with this one here. This is a number 3. This one I probably use the most for snowflake carving. And this one here is probably my favorite. I call these my favorites. And so some of them are just kind of sentimental about this from a guy that I learned wood carving from. And this is a number 4 gouge, which I find really useful. Oh, here's the same tool as this with a shallower, that's why I color coded them so I could tell them apart. And some of the woods that I've worked with are abrasive, and I would sharpen all 3 of these, and they were all the same, and I would work with them, and then I'd put that one down, and I know I could grab the next one, and it was sharp. And then when I was done, I'd sharpen all 3 again for the next round. Again, this is a smaller fishtail, which is really useful for getting around clearances, and I use this a lot even in the snowflake carving. Over here I have these are specialty tools that are bent tools, and they allow you to get into tight spaces and for relief carving. And this is a back bent tool, and that I had to purchase for a particular job. And a spoon gouge, a short bend. That would be good for spoon carving, but again, this is where your work is fixed to a bench. Now here's something that's very specialized that I had a big job that was exterior work. I ended up cutting and having these welded up. I cut some original, some full-length carving tools. This one here will come off like that. I still use it as a regular gouge, but this one is also used in an air chisel. So I won't run that now, but it's quite noisy, uses a lot of air, but it's good for roughing down. I didn't start out with that. I just started out with mallet and chisel, but that does save some time. I had a welder make some up for me, and then I had regular tailpipe cutting tools for air chisels, and I had them forged by a blacksmith. When you start out, just start with a few tools, a number 3, a number 5, maybe a skew chisel, and a V-tool is very useful to have. So maybe you need about 6 tools. And I would start out with whittling tools that are handheld or palm tools. That's how I started. And we'll cover that in another video. So I started carving with just a regular bench chisel and utility knives and things like that. And as you begin to realize that there's a particular cut you can't get, there's a tool that's made to do that. And you can, even in some instances, find a blacksmith or someone that can rework your tools. This tool is one that was a broken tool that ended up reforging and rehardening, and it's become kind of a favorite. So I have these tools that are gathered over many years, and you probably don't need all these things, and I probably don't need them now either. It's just that I got them, and they're a joy to use and well cared for. They'll last you to the next generation. So there it is, a brief survey of wood carving tools that I use, and some of them are used more than others. And if you have questions, feel free to comment, give it a thumbs up if you like what you see here, and subscribe to the channel if you would. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.